Please be seated. Good evening and welcome everyone to the council meeting. Would my chaplain, the Reverend Nathan Kiaga, please open the meeting with a prayer. This also allows time for personal reflection before we start the business of the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. In a world marked by both beauty and brokenness, we pause at the threshold of our work together. We see love and hate woven side by side, joy alongside despair, loneliness met with community. We see nations rise against nations, and even with our own land, politicians and voices often forget the common good. Yet here in this chamber at the Riviera Center, we are called to something higher. We gather not simply as individuals with differences, but as servants entrusted with responsibility for health and happiness of our community that is Torbay. Our task is not to build walls of division, but bridges of understanding. We are called to seek wisdom beyond ourselves, to hold before us the greater good of those who we serve, and to strive for a unity that honors both our diversity and our shared humanity. As I lead us in prayer in a moment, I'm inspired to share with you the words from the writer of Colossians to the people of Colossae in modern-day Turkey, who says, "As God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another. And if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other, just as the Lord has forgiven you. So you also must forgive. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule your hearts, to which indeed you are called in the one body, and be thankful." Let us pray. God of peace and compassion, renew in us your spirit today. Clothe us with kindness when debate grows sharp, with humility when pride would take hold, with patience when decisions are slow in coming. Teach us to forgive one another when words wound, and to extend compassion where need is greatest. Above all, bind us together in love, love that seeks the flourishing of every person in Torbay, young and old, love that values health and happiness as treasures worth protecting, love that carries us beyond personal interests to the common good. Let your peace, O God, rule in the hearts of these leaders. Guide the choices they make, the conversations they have, and the service they provide. And may gratitude shape their work, so that in all they do, they may honor, serve, and trust, just like they've been trusted by the people of this community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Reverend Nathan. The purpose of this meeting is to deal with a number of major issues for the well-being of Torbay and best interest of the community. My role as Civic Mayor is to ensure that today's agenda is dealt with efficiently and to allow fairness throughout the discussions. As you are aware, the meeting is governed by strict procedures or standing orders. If members wish to make a point of order or personal explanation, I will consider on a case-by-case basis when I take these. If members wish to leave the meeting before it is finished, please follow Standing Order A25.7 and give your apologies before you leave via the Head of Governance Support. Please note that we are live streaming this meeting via the Council's YouTube channel to encourage more people to engage in our public meetings. The procedures of the council meeting will also be recorded. Please can attendees refrain from watching the live stream, as this will cause interference for our viewers. We are not expecting any fire alarm testing today. In the event of an evacuation, you will hear a recorded message requesting you to evacuate the building. Please leave by the nearest exit. The Riviera Centre staff will assist you. Once outside, please assemble in front of the tennis courts to the seaward side of the building. Please also ensure that all mobile phones and iPads are turned to silent. I will call a break if the meeting is going beyond 7 p.m. Apologies. Are there any apologies for absent, please?
Madam Mayor, we have apologies for absence from Councillor Cowell and Councillor Steve Darling. Otherwise, all members are present, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I propose that the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of July 2025 be assigned as a correct record. Is there a seconder?
Madam Mayor, formally second the minutes.
I will now take the vote. All those in favour? None against? That's unanimous. Thank you. Have members any non-pecuniary or disclosable pecuniary interests in any of the matters on today's agenda? I'd like to invite the Armed Forces Champion, Councillor Spicania, to provide an update on the Armed Forces Covenant. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report details the work and achievements by Torbay Council over the past 12 months, as well as the ongoing efforts and future aspirations. This year has seen a collective Torbay Council and Swissco HR team spearhead a task and finish group with the aim of submitting a strong application for the ERS Silver Award, backed up by quality evidence. Particular mention must be made to the outstanding Armed Forces recognition policy that was developed and published as a direct result of HR's good work and puts us in an organisation in very good stead for the future. The policy establishes framework for mobilised reservists, guaranteed job interviews for veterans who meet the essential criteria, as well as reaffirming paid leave for reservists and adult cadet instructors who deploy on annual camp. As a result of the work conducted by the Task and Finish Group, Torbay Council have been awarded the ERS Silver Award, which will be received at a ceremony at Exeter next month, which is 2nd of October, by Councillor Mark Spigania and Matthew Fairclough Kay. We have an aspiration to apply for the ERS Gold Award in the near future and will be submitting an application when able to do so. In October last year, following consultation with our lead Armed Forces Covenant, Swissco signed the Covenant in a ceremony at Paignton Army Reserve Centre and have nominated one of their own veterans as Armed Forces Champion. This has led to a greater engagement between our respective veteran communities, which was evidenced during VE Day when Swissco hosted a celebration lunch to mark the event. As part of our pledge to support the Armed Forces Covenant, we have been advocating the Covenant to local organisations. As a result, Brixham Town Council have signed the Covenant and other businesses have also expressed an interest into signing the Covenant. Once again this year, we have recruited several mayoral cadets who have accompanied our civic mayor and deputy mayor on civic engagements. We would like to take this opportunity to thank last year's mayoral cadets and wish them the best for the future in their military careers, as all three joined His Majesty's Armed Forces as regular serving personnel. Last October saw the establishment of Torbay Council Armed Forces Community Network as part of our Staff Networks initiative. The group is chaired by our lead for Armed Forces Covenant and include all members of the Armed Forces community across both Torbay Council and Swissco. They meet monthly and have circa 30 members in the network. The lead for the Armed Forces Covenant has been nominated to the position of Vice Chair of the Forces Covenant Southwest, which is the Southwest Armed Forces Covenant Working Group. This is a quarterly meeting between the LAs across the Southwest to discuss strategy, share best practice, and advise the Southwest Armed Forces Covenant Board accordingly. Engagement with the local armed forces community has increased with regular engagements attended by either Armed Forces Champion or our lead for the Armed Forces Covenant. Where possible, both have attended. This includes VE Day celebrations, local military services and commemorations, as well as Armed Forces Day, which has all been immensely supported by our members and senior council officers alike. Our Armed Forces webpage has been updated and continues to be as we forge better links with support organisations and other military communities across Torbay and beyond. Following a productive meeting with branch members of Torquay and Paignton Royal British Legion branches, a mutual decision has been reached whereby, in order to better support for our military community, a banner will be commissioned and will be signpost those in our Armed Forces community who need support. To our webpage, where the details and local and national support groups are held. The banner will be displayed as a prominent location adjacent to the Rifles Garden at King's Drive. A public consultation was launched in December and closed on Friday the 25th, 2025. We had a total of 220 respondents. The report is due for delivery in October. Key themes that have been drawn from the survey are so far as homeless and healthcare concerns were raised multiple times, whilst the majority of veterans who responded indicated they don't need support. The majority of respondents who require support have significant healthcare issues, complex PTSD being one example. There is a need for more coherent, accessible support for veterans, particularly for the older generations. This also applies to their families. There is more work required to improve the understanding of the Covenant across all sectors. The Council is committed to supporting the Armed Forces community, and further consideration is needed as to the officer capacity required to lead the delivery of this agenda. Central government have recently announced that the legal duty under the Armed Forces Act 2021 is due to be expanded almost fourfold from the areas of housing, education and healthcare to housing, healthcare, education, employment, social care, childcare, personal taxation, welfare benefits, criminal justice, immigration, citizenship, pensions, service-related compensation, transport. Whilst most of the topics mentioned will have a limited impact on our services, we won't know what these impacts will be until further information has been published by central government.
Councillor Spicania, you've had 5 minutes. Have you got much more to go, please?
One more little summary bit. Thank you. We have continued to strive to uphold and improve our commitments, both under our legal duty and our pledges within the Armed Forces Covenant. The good work that has taken place thus far has been recognised nationally with our ERS Silver Award and proves that we are moving in the right direction. We are in a good position and with effective steps being taken to improve our commitments, both to our employees who are members of the Armed Forces community and our wider community across Torbay. There is still more to do, and we will strive to build upon our success year on year. I have agreed with the Mayor that today's briefing will be circulated with the minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you, members. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Spicania. I just one announcement to make. I'd just like to remind everyone about the annual civic lunch, which is next Friday. For those who have actually booked, thank you very much for your support. You're not only supporting me as Mayor, but you're also supporting Rowcroft, my chosen charity. For those who haven't yet booked, I'd be really grateful if you could get on the phone or fill in the forms and make your booking ASAP. We need the numbers. So thank you very much. Has the Leader of the Council any announcements he wishes to make?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I rise really just to talk for 2 minutes about our local, our LGO. I almost forgot what it was called then. Local Government Reorganisation. How could I forget that? We've only been working on it forever. And the response to the survey that concluded on the 31st of August. Many, many thanks to our residents. We had just short of 1,500 responses to that consultation piece. And I can inform members that 68% have voted in favour of a Torbay council staying with its current boundaries. Of the rest of those, 2/3 look towards option 2, which was the Torbay and South Devon Foundation Trust size, and the additional third looking at for option 3, which was the 1-4-5 approach. This will help us come forward with our final decisions at the end of November, when of course all of the consultation, including our stakeholders, will be brought together in an options appraisal. And just before I sit down, Madam Mayor, with your indulgence, I invite Councillor Bye to give us an update on an issue with children. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Madam Mayor. Following a member's question at the last council meeting, I'm absolutely delighted to announce that we are now implementing the auto-enrolment of pupils in Torbay for free school meals. We have already identified an additional 235 pupils within Torbay who qualify for free school meals. And that doesn't just mean that they get a nutritious meal each day, it means their schools that they attend get additional pupil premium money. In total, that will be something like £200,000 for our primary schools, and in total something like £87,000 for our secondary schools. So Sherwell Valley, Curledge Street, Barton Hill Academy, Brixham College, Hayes, Oldway, Paynton Academy, Shippey, Torquay Academy, White Rock and Warburys in the Wellswood ward all get at least another 12, 15 or more thousands of pounds for their school budgets. I'm absolutely delighted. We believe that we are the only authority outside London at this stage that is introducing the auto-enrolment. Councillor Law may well know more, but we're there in the vanguard. We believe we are a trailblazer, and we know that other neighbouring authorities are looking to Torbay, and we're looking to work with them. So I want to say a huge thank you to professional colleagues in children's services and our schools who work together, as this seems to me to be a really good news story for Torbay, and I'm sure there'll be proper communications. It means that 27% of children in Torbay now have free school meals. Thank you for your indulgence, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Bye. I understand the Chief Executive and the Overview and Scrutiny Coordinator have no announcements that they wish to make. We have received a statement and question from Ms. Sian Ella regarding the new education other than at school pathway. Please refer to page 11. Ms. Ella, welcome to the meeting. Would you please take a seat at the microphone? You have 5 minutes to present your question, and I will let you know when there are 30 seconds remaining. This includes time for a supplementary question you may have. Could you please put your microphone on? Thank you.
Apologies. Earlier this year, Ofsted found that too many children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities in Torbay experience poor outcomes due to lack of access to the right provision and support at the right time. Families had hoped that this would be a turning point, that this would lead to real action and improvements. But to the shock of many, for some, provision has actually deteriorated further. This September, a new education other than at school, or EOTAS pathway, was introduced. It moves children away from their individualised alternative provisions onto a standardised timetable of support. Families in the Mums Supporting Better Futures group have raised the following serious concerns. First, consultation. There was no genuine consultation with children or families. Only 4 parents attended a meeting in October without Send Family Voice Torbay or Sendias attending. The details of the pathway were not shared in this meeting, and parents were told that provision would not be removed if it was working well. Yet this is exactly what happened. Second, communication. Official notification about the changes went out as late as April this year, and some parents were even left off the mailing lists, only to find out that it was changing in June or July. Timetables were sent on the very last day of term, meaning that families were unable to contact the providers they were soon to be working with. Timetables additionally were repeatedly changed over the summer, and some were still unconfirmed a week before the start of term. Third, timetables not individualised. Emergency education, health and care plan reviews were not offered as part of the process. Some families were refused or ignored if they requested them, and many children have started term with an education, health and care plan that does not match the provision and health support that they are now receiving and are entitled to. Fourth, personal budgets. Children whose timetables don't meet their needs have been pushed towards personal budgets, and families have been told they need to arrange their own provision. Many have found this process overwhelming, and some applications have been rejected and others are stuck in appeals. The result is delay, crisis and stress for families already under strain. Lack of transition. Children were moved suddenly without proper planning or handover. For children who struggle with change, this has been especially damaging. Promised transition plans never happened or have been delayed until the autumn term, but again with still no clear plan. And finally, provision outside of Torbay. Some provisions are not even based in Torbay. The core curriculum provider, the only core curriculum provider, is based in Totnes. In some cases, children are expected to travel between Newton Abbot in the morning and Totnes in the afternoon, a clear example of impractical planning. Taken together, it is clear that these changes have been imposed upon families and not developed with them. They do not provide the right support at the right time. Families can only conclude that the real aim is to reduce costs, but the law is clear. Financial pressures cannot be used as a reason to deny a child an appropriate education. So I end with 2 questions. First, how does Torbay Council justify these actions, and what urgent steps will be taken to rebuild trust, improve communication and ensure that children receive the individualised support they are entitled to? And second, how will Torbay Council measure the educational attainment and well-being of children on the EOTAS pathway, And will this evidence be used to review and, if necessary, change the way the pathway operates in the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Eller. Would the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Councillor Bye, please provide a reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In September 2024, parents and carers of young people on the previous AOTAS programme were asked for their ideas and feedback towards a new programme. One hybrid event was held with parents and carers attending in person and online. Further telephone and email correspondence was requested from some parents and carers who couldn't attend, which was facilitated over October and November. The local authority had to abide by procurement rules, which meant the full details of the programme could only be shared once the procurement process had ended. Once procurement had finalised, details were shared with families. Due to the highly individualised nature of the programme, more than 20 providers in total, this has meant that timetables have taken time to be developed. Officers worked across the summer holiday period to ensure the transition could begin in September. The new programme ensures that core subjects of English, maths and science can be delivered by specialists, meaning our young people will receive a high-quality offer and achieve better educational outcomes. The other parts of the programme are highly individualised, with providers being chosen to match young people's needs according to their specialisms. The new programme provides a range of core, extended and therapeutic offers. For some young people, as with any provision or setting, some of their provision needs a very specific response. Parents were invited to apply for a personal budget if they felt they needed something very specific, which wasn't included in the programme. The local authority also offered to agree personal budgets for Year 11 pupils who were affected by the changes to ensure they could complete GCSE qualifications they had started in Year 10. A huge amount of transition work has been accomplished over recent months between the providers and the local area SEND team to ensure the providers are ready to deliver the new programmes this term. The providers have created information videos for our website and provided transition visits across the summer holidays. The full procurement process was followed, including detailing that all our provisions needed to be within a reasonable travelling distance. This has meant that some providers are situated just outside of Torbay. However, we are confident in the high quality of the offer they will provide. The SEND Local Area Partnership is committed to working with families to rapidly improve support and services, as recently detailed in our Local Area Partnership Priority Impact Plan. This programme will be rigorously monitored by a robust contract management process which will have oversight on outcomes, attendance and well-being of children and young people. The SEND team are committed to listening to feedback as the new programme embeds and making changes and improvements as the programme is rolled out. More than half of the OTAS young people from the last academic year have been found an educational setting to meet their needs for this academic year. So half of our previous cohort have actually gone back into school this term. Therefore, our currently OTAS cohort makes up less than 2% of our EHCP provision population. This programme has been changed to ensure that the 36 children are having educational provisions delivered by a registered, high-quality provider rather than for any cost-cutting reason. We understand that any change can be challenging for some families, but are confident that once transitions have been completed, that this programme will offer a much higher quality provision with better outcomes for our young people. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bye. Ms Eller, you have 38 seconds remaining from your 5 minutes. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you. This week, Send Family Voice Torbay published a report outlining the concerns that I've mentioned, and they include some really good case study examples to highlight the adverse recent impact of these changes that these changes have had on children. And I did strongly encourage all members present to review its findings. My supplementary question is, will you commit to full transparency by publishing comprehensive guidance on the new EOTAS pathway, including provider lists and of the decision-making process involved? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I can confirm absolutely that the decision that was made to go for procurement and to improve our EOTAS provision was made at Cabinet in December last year, and the reasons were very clearly outlined. The Ofsted area inspection makes it absolutely clear that we have to improve our offer for children who are educated other than at school, and that hitherto we have not measured the outcomes or the progress of those children, and some have been placed in unregistered provision. This way forward is absolutely to ensure a better provision for those young people and children who are our future in the Bay. I want to thank our SEND team for dealing with this issue, and I have offered to go and meet with the children at their provisions as the programme settles down and as the term proceeds. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms Ella, would you like to take your seat back in the audience? Thank you. I move to item 7, members' questions. The questions and answers have been circulated and are noted as submitted. Members, these are available on your iPads under late reports pack. I have accepted an urgent question submitted by Councillor George Darling, which is set out at question 8. I will ask for any supplementary questions. For those members asking a supplementary question, it must arise directly out of the original question or the reply. May I remind members that supplementary questions shall not include a statement, and I will be interrupting you if I consider your supplementary question is a statement. Please note that there is a time limit of 1 minute to ask a supplementary question, and the response time is 3 minutes, and the overall maximum time for members' questions is 30 minutes. I refer to question 1 in respect of the support of the Torbay Rail Line Users Group. Councillor Carter, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I refer to question 2 in respect of the enforcement of the new 20-mile-an-hour zones. Councillor Long, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I refer to question 3 in respect of the Brunswick Square car park paper recycling bank. Councillor Pentney, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Biddings, for your response. It's welcome news that the paper recycling bank is to return to Brunswick Square car park. At the same time, would you consider improving the recycling offer that we have at the car park, perhaps say with cardboard recycling facilities?
Councillor Billings, please provide a response.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Pentney. Just to explain a little bit more detail on that answer before I provide that, we've said access difficulties in my answer, just so all members are aware. The recycling provision is in the form of a roll-on, roll-off skip, which when it's unloaded from a vehicle makes quite a long vehicle and skip combination for the recycling unit. So that's what I'm referring to in terms of access difficulties. I hope that will be resolved soon. I'm working with officers to try to achieve that, and we'll do something with parking services if there are continued issues. You're referring to additional provision of other recycling opportunities. I, like all members, are very keen to get the recycling rate up, and I'd like to work with you and other ward councillors to look at these other opportunities. One issue that has been prevalent throughout in relation to these recycling facilities for paper has been cross-contamination. So maybe there's an opportunity to provide alternative provision and also provide some information and guidance for the community in that area to try to encourage the correct usage and sorting. And I'd be delighted to work with you and other ward councillors to achieve that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I refer to question 4 in respect of the member appointed to Torbay Rail Line Users Group. Councillor Carter, do you have a supplementary?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Question 5 in respect of the lifts and escalators in Fleet Walk. Councillor Pentley, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to Councillor Chris Lewis for his answer. In your answer, you talked about the significant age of the equipment and cite that as a central reason as to why they have been out of service for so long, issues about getting equipment by manufacturers that no longer exist. My supplementary being, should we not have been better to anticipate that old equipment will get old and needs maintaining and front-loading that before they break down?
Councillor Lewis, please provide a response.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And of course, we inherited the Fleet Walk 2 years ago when we inherited that problem of the lifts and the escalators. We have been trying to keep them going with parts, as outlined in my answer. Unfortunately, it comes a time when those parts are no longer available, and you're quite right, Councillor Pentley, it's beyond its true life time. And that is why we've asked for an expert to come in and look at both the escalator and the lift to see, going forward, what is the best way of doing that. Because clearly, with all the work we're doing at Strand and the Debenham site, regeneration, that site of Fleet Walk is going to be extremely popular and people will want to go into that building. Therefore, it's only right and proper that we put the lift right and the escalator. So thank you very much for your question and highlighting the fact, the good work that we are doing in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Question 6 in respect of overgrown weeds and bushes across Torbay. Councillor Long, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Yes, please. And my question is, and it slightly pertains to the last one as well, as we are now over halfway through the current term, can the portfolio holder advise when the manifesto promise to provide weed-free curbsides, and that commitment is still online, will be implemented? And as we are now over halfway through your term, I'm sure there won't be any claim that it was the previous administration's fault. Thank you.
Councillor Billings, can you please provide a response?
I'd be delighted to, Madam Mayor. I think it's helpful in providing this answer to draw members' attention to the answer to the question that I've already provided, because one flows naturally to the other. And in the final paragraph of my answer, I talk about the success that we've already achieved in grass cutting, how we started with a position where we were having 3 to 4 cuts throughout the season in 2023, how in 2024 we moved to a situation where we have 6 to 7, and in 2025 we are on course to achieve 8 cuts. Now, Rome wasn't built in a day. That is in relation to grass cutting. However, I explain it because it's directly relevant. There are a series of points in my portfolio that go towards the presentation of the bay. One of the easier ones to fix was grass cutting. It required effectively greater efficiencies in the way works were undertaken and more money being allocated towards that service area. We have also done the same in weed control. However, the problem there is greater. We've already provided quad bikes that provide weed spraying to control the weeds. We inherited a situation where we had 2 broken quad bikes, so we've got operational quad bikes. We've bought, through previous investment, a weed ripper. We've realised that hasn't achieved the progress that we've achieved in grass cutting, which is why through the recent budget announcement we've been able to allocate further investment towards a second weed ripper And as per my answer, we've allocated for next year more staff towards this, so we're training extra manpower in Swissco. And why that's really important, so all members understand, weeds can be controlled one of two ways. Either it's on a mechanical basis. When I started as a portfolio holder on this, we had no mechanical way of controlling weeds. Let me remind that for all of those members like myself who want to try to limit control of weed killers and glyphosates, we had no mechanical solution, so therefore we were more heavily reliant on those. We've got that now in place. We're also training extra staff so we can use the glyphosates when they'll be most effective, which is when it's dry. And I hope that next year and of
You have
course
30
the year
seconds
after.
remaining, Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We will see the improvements in the suppression of weeds that we've already seen in grass cutting. But I would highlight we've got a very long inherited seed bank that we need to get on top of, and that's why it's taking a bit longer. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I refer to question 7 in respect of the £250,000 awarded by the Heritage Lottery Fund to Groundwork South. Councillor Carter, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I have, Madam Mayor. Can I just ask, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice, someone cheer, but never mind. I'm a bit perplexed by your answer, Councillor Billings. Could you just confirm to me publicly that all of the continuation funding that you had for that has all been spent?
Councillor Billings?
So, Madam Mayor, as I've put in my answer, I had before providing this answer contacted Councillor Carter. I'm unclear why there is a difference of understanding about this particular project, and I'd like to take this offline, because it almost occurs to me that we're talking about two different projects, because if we go back to what the original question was, it was to why approximately £250,000 had to be handed back. That is a very different situation to what I put in my answer, where I've got up in front of me on the National Lottery Heritage Fund's website a case study on this project that lays out a chapter and verse about the monies that were provided, the monies that were spent, and the money. So it occurs to me we're almost talking about two separate projects. So I'd like to take offline that question and provide it, because I'm describing and providing members advice on a project that's gone fantastically. Councillor Carter is describing a project that's clearly not worked in such a way, and I'd like to get to the bottom of that difference in understanding, and so I can provide a proper answer. And I'm quite happy to confirm that in writing in due course. Thank you.
Thank you. Refer to question 8 in respect of the Retail Unit Improvement Grant aspect of the Enterprise Fund. Councillor George Darling, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, Madam Mayor. And thank you for accepting the urgent question on this. I think the urgency of it is really highlighted by the fact that a business has emailed me whilst this council meeting is going on, asking and begging for help when they're seeing 3 retail units in St Mary Church closing down. A lot of our retail in Torquay exists outside of the town centre, and it's really disappointing that we're not expanding this to support them. So could I ask the member to please reconsider this, or at least take it away and take a further look, because lots of businesses are desperate for this.
Councillor Lewis, can you provide a response, please?
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for the urgent question. It's not one that I would have said is urgent, because it's already gone through overview and scrutiny and others, but very happy to talk about it. This fund was specifically put for our town centres. The feedback that we've got over the last 12 months, and I'm sure longer than that, is our town centres desperately need regeneration. And regeneration, I'm catching your cough, Councillor Carter. Got it very quickly. So what we're trying to do is to get the most bungs for our bucks, really, is if we can consolidate it in our town centres at this stage. It's only 130,000. we've had a lot of interest already. We've had over 40 interests, and it's only been published a few weeks. So we've got people out there who want this money, want help. And to remind people, that fund is there for small businesses to start up in the town centre, and for retail outlets. If you've got a shop and it needs a bit of TLC, then we're there to help. So that's what we're doing. But I quite understand, you know, in Preston and other parts of the Bay, there are people who also need help. But for the 130,000 at the moment, we will continue to concentrate on the town centres. But if it works really well there, and we get more money, and we can, and as you well know, Torquay has the neighbourhood fund, which the government have done over 20 million, is it? 20 million? Those people can put in bids into that. Whereas specifically for the town centres, I think the small amount of money we've got, the greatest impact will be in the town centres at the moment. But again, happy to have a discussion with you, and we can talk to the team to see if there are other funds that we can push your way. But I would have thought the new neighbourhood fund of 20 million would be a good start. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I move to item 8, budget monitoring, revenue and capital outturn 2025 to 2026 quarter 1. Please refer to page 17. Can Councillor Tyman please put the Cabinet's motion to the Council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We bring our budget monitoring reports to Council frequently, as I think one would expect from the fact that they're quarterly. And in many instances, there is a limited amount that Council has to agree on, despite the fact the report covers a much wider field, and it's exactly the same this time. The revenue aspects here, as well as the capital, have been thoroughly discussed at scrutiny. They've been discussed both informally by Cabinet and formally, and the result of that is we had a Cabinet requirement to note the report. I'd like to make just one or two comments on it, well, one really, that if you've read the report, you will notice that a number of directorates have overspends. Officers, I would like to assure you, in those directorates are working with the finance team and their Cabinet members to reduce those overspends, and that work will continue throughout the year. In terms of the capital requirements that do require a decision tonight from Council, you'll find those on page 20 of the report. The Council to approve the revisions to the Capital Investment Plan as set out in Appendix 1 of the submitted report, that Council approve the additional borrowing of 2.5 million to facilitate capital loans to Swissco to enable them to modernise their fleet, and the Council approves an update to the capital programme of up to £3 million allocated from Levelling Up Round 3 grant to acquire the required land for the delivery of the Torbay Tech Park. Details of all of those are contained within the report, and the only change to the capital programme that is additional funding other than coming from grant or already approved funding, such as the allocation here to the Seabury Hotel, which will be coming out of the funding for the accommodation repurposing project that members were very happy to support. Was it the meeting before last, I believe? So the only one that is really new money is the Swissco loan. And I'd just like to say very briefly on that the whole of that is being funded from existing budgets within Swissco, and it should present no additional strain to either the Council or to Swissco budgets. So with that, I'm happy to present that, and I'm happy to take any questions and trying to deal with them as you wish.
Thank you, Councillor Timon. Is there a seconder?
I rise to second my good friend Councillor Timon and reserve my right, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now invite debate. Councillor Law. Oh dear. Councillor Law. Councillor Law.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, so I'm just a little concerned that the Cabinet is recommending to Council an in-year loan of the £2.5 million to Swissco for fleet modernisation. It doesn't really fill me with confidence at all. We all recognise how vital the fleet vehicles are to Swissco, vital to them being able to do the business that they're supposed to do. However, considering the vital importance of the fleet to the business, this ad hoc approach with in-year asks is concerning. I tried to find out exactly what the monies or loans what loans and money Swissco have had for fleet investment since it began operating in July 2020. The 2022-23 annual report referred to the £16 million investment in fleet under our administration, and I remember another £4 million going in very recently from your administration. I did try to find out the exact amount from officers, however, they have been unable to give me an exact amount and dates as yet. But they have flagged up to me a further £3.8 million in loans and £150,000 for a new weed ripper from the 23-24 underspend, which came mainly obviously from Children and Adult Services. I've also tried unsuccessfully to locate the Phase 2 fleet replacement strategy that was mentioned in the Swissco 22-23 annual report, and was rather perturbed to find exactly the same recommendation for the Phase 2 in the Swissco annual report that's just come to us now for 23-24. It appears that officers also couldn't locate the fleet replacement strategy either when I asked for it. And without a fleet replacement plan or strategy, how do we know when the next ask for fleet finance will be coming? Will we be seeing more in-year asks? Given how difficult it's been for me as a councillor to find out this information, things do not appear to be very transparent, nor what we would expect for a wholly owned council company. So when can we expect to see a proper fleet replacement strategy that sets out in a structured manner the replacement of the vehicles so vital to the operation of the business? And could you please give assurance that there will be no further in-year ad hoc requests for such a vital component to Swissco's ability to operate? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Councillor Long.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And all I would say to Councillor Thomas is you should see what Councillor Timon said about you on his iPad. Shocking. The manifesto in which the administration stood for election on is still online and says the following about the council finances. It says, we will, in quotes, spend your money wisely and run the council efficiently. And I remember many of us on this side will remember in the first council meeting after the 23 elections that the Cabinet Member for Finance was incredibly critical of the previous administration's handling of the finances, despite the award for the good handling of the finances that the previous administration had obtained. And yet, despite the election promises and the criticisms of the previous administration, we now have, in this second half of their control of their term, a forecasted overspend of 785,000. One of the significant areas of overspend is that of £545,000 in legal services. Whilst we all recognise that there are that this is a national problem, it is becoming a persistent problem locally. And whilst there are reassurances in this report that there is a sustainability plan in place and that this is going to be reviewed early, it doesn't seem to be delivering as yet. Perhaps what is needed is the same focus on legal services that was given to children's services under our administration, and that resulted in a turnaround in that service. It is also noteworthy the extra money being given to the library service when on this side of the House when this side of the Chamber raised concerns that the libraries were being shortchanged at budget time, we were very much poo-poo, but now there is extra money being given, so it's better late than never. I also wanted to highlight one of the risks in the report in relation to temporary accommodation. Whilst there are absolutely improvements in that service, it does remain a risk, and I would suggest that this will remain a risk until much more is done about affordable housing by this council. On the ask for Swissco, I would very much agree with Councillor Law, and whilst we will be supportive of the money that's being asked for, we have had lots of asks for Swissco over the past few months, and it hasn't just been for fleet either. In the underspends we had money for CCTV, which actually wasn't for CCTV, it was for what we consider to be bread and butter Swissco work, as well as other kind of town centre stuff, which was also what would be considered bread and butter Swissco work. So I think what this side is asking for is to have sight of that strategy, and whilst I'm not one that normally asks for strategies, but I think this is when one is needed for Swissco, so that we don't get this these sudden in-year asks for money for Swissco. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Lewis, Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How nice of colleagues opposite to give me the opportunity to explain to all members the importance of the work that we are doing and continuing to do in Swissco. So, as members will appreciate, occasionally you currently see a rental van. It's often been historically associated with the recycling collections fleet, and it's there because, a bit like those that have to drive to work in the morning, and you need your car to get there, you need a reliable vehicle. Well, if you have to go and collect the rubbish, you need a reliable lorry. And what that's increasingly required, as we've continued, is that Swissco's hired in vehicles. And they've hired in vehicles beyond the economic life of their existing stock of vehicles, and increasingly we are finding, because there's not a drawdown facility in place, a vehicle is being leased rather than a new vehicle being purchased, and that ultimately is costing residents through their council taxes more money. This is not about going out and trying to buy some lovely shiny lorries because people like lovely shiny lorries or other elements of fleet. This is about providing a reliable, functional service. And that is why, members, when we have performance appraisals, we see 90% something in terms of the regularity of our collections for rubbish. It's only because we have the vehicles, because the most willing employees in the world are not able to do that job without the fleet and vehicles to be able to do that. Now, I can appreciate that what's required in order to be able to assure members, and through members, our wider public, that we are doing our job as councillors, is to provide answers to questions that are made. However, what I'm also very aware, members, is that we've introduced a shadow cabinet role, and that as the Cabinet member, I'm always willing to work with members opposite and help if there are situations where information hasn't been provided. Now, no one's come to me, and thank you for the opportunity of raising it. I would query when the ask was raised, because if it was raised at an early time, I'd have been delighted to step in and facilitate that information. Now, what I would step back and ask members is, you've heard a request for more information. Is more information sufficient for you to say, at this point, no, you'd prefer Swissco, professional advice of officers, to continue to use leased vehicles, which is ultimately costing residents more money? Equally, members, what I would say is we've heard a lot about additional areas of investment.
Councillor Billings, sorry, can I just stop you there? Councillor Law, what's the problem?
Yes, Councillor Billings, according to the 2022...
Hang on. What?
Oh, sorry, point A16 point something correction. What he's saying isn't accurate.
Is it a personal explanation or point of order?
Point of order. Factual accuracy. We purchased our fleet in 2022-23.
What is the significant factual?
Our fleet isn't leased. We purchased the fleet in 22-23. £16 million was a loan to Swissco, and they used that loan to purchase our fleet. Councillor Billings is saying that it's all leased, and it's not all leased. We purchased those.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Billings, you've got 2 minutes left, Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to restate what I earlier said. We don't. You're entirely correct, Councillor, and I don't believe I did say we lease a fleet of vehicles. What I said... No, please don't barrack across the chamber, Councillor. You can raise your point of order through the Mayor by raising your hand. What I said quite clearly, and for those listening on this side heard quite clearly, I'm sure members in the audience heard quite clearly, is where our existing owned fleet don't work because they are not functional, Swissco lease a vehicle. So when the existing vehicle that's collecting your rubbish breaks down, we don't have spares that we own in the yard. We have to hire one in on a lease basis. Now, if there's a difference in opinion as to what Swissco do on that point of fact, I'm quite happy to take it away. I'm quite happy to meet my shadow cabinet colleague over at Swissco, and we can talk to the fleet manager and we can go through this in great detail, because that's, in my view, Councillor, how collaborative cross-party working should facilitate answering these sorts of queries. Now, going back to what I was saying, yes, we're putting more money into Swissco, but that's showing through in terms of the results. I spoke earlier about the way we're delivering better grass cutting.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
I spoke earlier in relation to my question about how we're tackling weeds. I spoke earlier in relation to the fact we didn't have a mechanical way of addressing weeds previously. And yet, members, it is, with the greatest respect, it's often a point from your side of the chamber where you raise concerns about glyphosate usage. So this money is delivering for our residents. I'm quite happy to provide more information, but I don't see that takes away from the key point in the report before us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Billings. Councillor David Thomas.
Thank you very much indeed. Try to address some of the points that were raised. I think Councillor Billings has spent some considerable time talking about the lease versus the purchase. I think I would take exception with my colleague, Councillor Billings, who said that this is an injection of money into Swissco. Basically, we're acting as a bank here. We are providing a loan facility. This isn't a cash injection saying there's another £2.5 million. We're saying, basically, we will provide a capital loan facility of up to £2.5 million, which means basically the money that's being spent on those leased vehicles will not be spent on leased vehicles, it will be spent on paying back the loan borrowed from this particular council. And the only reason we're able to operate that loan is because of a strong financial position that this council is in. It's one of the things, Councillor Long, that we agree on regarding local government reorganisation. It's one of the biggest things we've been talking about to our colleagues across the whole of Devon, that we are in the enviable position of having a strong financial position. And I'm not arguing with you across the floor that it wasn't strong 4 years ago, but certainly we are in that strong financial position, absolutely. And there was some concern raised over the outturn of where we are within Q1. And a phrase comes into my mind that somebody taught me very, very early on in my business career. And that was, 1 month does not a business make. So in other words, 1 month, you're going to have some downtime. You're going to have some times when you're actually not bringing the kind of cash in that you need. But other times, you'll make it up. And you need to look at the whole of the year to understand how has that particular business done. You can't, you know, that one month will give you some idea of where you are. But what I would say is really importantly, for the past 2 years, this administration has managed the financial position and actually not only manage that financial position, but managed to come in with an underspend, which meant that this council can then spend that additional money on additional services for our residents. So I think that is a really, really key point. So it's not a £2.5 million grant, it is a capital loan. And the only other thing that I've got written down was Councillor Law spoke about £4 million already being allocated, or at least a nod to £4 million loan. This is that £4 million loan, but it's been reduced to 2.5 million. It's not a new 2.5, it's that 4 million that's been reduced to 2.5. And the reason we did that is because basically we're looking after the finances at the same time as facilitating the additional improvements in Swissco. And I hope that helps to kind of ratify those two figures. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. If there's no more debate, Councillor Lewis, you reserved your right.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Mayor. I think my colleagues have covered all the points, so I won't linger anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Tyman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will say nothing more on the Swissco loan. I think enough has been said by Councillor Billings and Councillor Thomas, except to say I endorse basically what Councillor Thomas said in terms of the nature of this and the fact that we are absolutely assured by Swissco that this is actually going to save them money overall in their budgets to be able to get new vehicles where they need them. Swissco have a very large fleet. This is quite a small amount of money in terms of topping up what was clearly spent when they set out a number of years ago. The 16 million that was mentioned. I'll say no more. I'd just like to say also that I was a little surprised about the discussions from Councillor Long, or the introduction from Councillor Long on the revenue side. That is not a matter that is part of any decision for Council tonight. And frankly, we had a long discussion at scrutiny, and all the points that were raised by Councillor Long, I believe, most, if not most of the points, certainly, were raised at scrutiny, were discussed at scrutiny, and actually scrutiny came up with no recommendations as a result of those. In fact, I remember Councillor, the leader of the independent group, actually saying that he felt that the overspend in that first quarter was fairly typical and it didn't cause him any concern. I hate to put words in somebody's mouth who isn't here to challenge it, so I'll say he didn't say to me, certainly, and as he said to the meeting, he wasn't concerned about the situation. But as I say, it's not a subject for today. We only have to look at the capital. I want to make one other point. it got mentioned again, the subject of affordable housing. It was interesting that I put a challenge out at the last meeting if any member opposite would like to put a question on what affordable housing has been produced by the previous administration and what we are on track to produce in this administration. No such question came. So I'll just say one thing, that we are making significant strides with support from opposite to produce far more affordable housing directly from the council than has been achieved over various previous administrations. We have not finished that job. It does take a struggle. We've got big town centre projects which will have a lot of affordable housing in them. We've already got schemes underway. We passed authority.
Point of factual accuracy, please, Madam Mayor. A16.12, please.
I'll take that now, Councillor Long. Thank you, Councillor Timon.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And there were discussions, I understand, after the last council meeting where we explained that in the last administration there was a thing called a global pandemic, and I had understood that you had conceded that point, that was why, and Councillor Lewis is shaking his head, so I'm not sure that's about the pandemic, because that did exist.
I don't really think this is a point of factual
but that was why, and we have raised similar
Councillor
points
Long,
about...
I don't think this is a significant. It's not factually significant.
We'll disagree, but I'll take your...
Councillor Time, would you like to finish?
Thank you, and I don't know whether it's my memory or whether it's somebody else's memory, but I have absolutely no recollection of such a conversation at the end of the last meeting about the fact it was the pandemic. It might be that my memory is going. If so, I apologise. I don't believe so. That's thrown me, but frankly, affordable housing is something that both sides of the chamber are trying to do something about. I don't want to score points, but I constantly hear from that side of the chamber, from one or two individuals, the attempt to score points on this. We all need to get behind affordable housing. We all need to drive this forward. And I wish we could actually take this away from the political agenda. I have talked to your shadow cabinet member at length of this. We have said that what we want to do is work more closely together so that whatever happens in terms of administration following the next election, there is a smooth transition going forward, and whatever projects we are starting through this administration are ones that he will know about and be able to take forward in the next. That's the way I want to work together. I really don't think there is any value in constantly bringing it up and trying to throw things around. But if you want to bring it up, I'll bring it up. So that's where we stand on that.
Thank you, Councillor Timon. I will now move to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Any abstaining? Motion is carried. Thank you. I move to item 9, Treasury Management Outturn 24-25 report. Please refer to page 43. This report is for noting and no vote is necessary. I therefore thank members for attendance today. I now close the meeting.